Hey Leo, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and this is your look at the astrology of March 2021. So let's get to it. So as you go into March, now February for you is such a time about relationships. It's about home and family relationships, and sometimes the complicated emotions that come up when you are interacting with other people. The astrology this month is mostly focused on Pisces season. So Pisces for you is what I like to call your eighth sign, your eighth room. So the eighth room in the astrology house is where you have to go and face yourselves. It's a necessary room. It's a room that we all have to go through, and it's where we feel our vulnerability. It's where we look deep within. It's where we face our shadows and our fears. And it's a Scorpio room, and it's programming. And so through that, it's meant to transform you. So if people came into your life during Aquarius season, or you had to do a lot of big, serious decisions about relationships during an Aquarius season, maybe it's bringing up a lot of complicated emotions. Are you safe? Can you be vulnerable? Can you let somebody in? Maybe even deeper themes around sexuality, power, and control. Pisces for you is also a money sign. So you're also looking at material stability, the money that you have and your assets, portfolios, finances, taxes, debt. So maybe you're navigating a lot of those themes as well. As you go into March, you have Mars going into Gemini. So for you, Leo, Gemini is your 11th sign. It's about community, it's about friendships, it's about social circle, and also social networking. So maybe it's a very busy month for you in some way. You are doing a lot of that inner work, but there's this kind of sense of like the bigger picture that's happening. Where do you want to go? Meaning, where do you want to direct your life? Because if the previous sign of Taurus, and by the way, you're in a time of total career reinvention, if you are indeed having to reinvent your career, like what are the sort of necessary things that you have to do in order to network for your professional life, get involved with groups, get involved with different communities. It's also a time to kind of aspire, like where you want your professional life to head towards if you are indeed switching everything up. I realize every Leo is different, but there's sort of this bigger umbrella of time that you're in where your professional life is getting a radical rehaul, or it's opening up if you've been sort of keeping your professional ambitions pretty tight and the universe is saying, no, go bigger. So Mars is going to be in that part of your chart going into April. Like I said, social, like a lot of connection, of course, the best way one can do that these days. The other thing that's going on is that there is a Pisces New Moon on March 13th. And so going back to some earlier themes I was just mentioning when we started, this Pisces New Moon is in your eighth room, doing the necessary internal work so that you can grow and evolve, so that you can gain the necessary wisdom about yourself. There is a sense of alchemy in this part of your chart, and it's necessary alchemy. So if going into the second half of the month brings up heavy emotions, especially any heavy emotions around relationships and interconnectedness or partnerships, don't be surprised. Mercury will go into Pisces on March 15th, and Mercury being the planet of communication, maybe this is a time for you to really communicate with a partner. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner or a marriage or what have you, but it can be all people. So maybe you are having to talk more about your vulnerabilities, about your expectations and needs. Maybe you're having to really reveal something about yourself that you haven't wanted to or have been too afraid to. Later this month, the sun goes into Aries, so it's the start of the astrological year. It's also the start of a new season. For those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the start of spring. For you all in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the start of autumn. So for you, Leo, Aries is your sign, Aries is the sign of faith, truth, meaning. What are your convictions? What do you stand for? How do you see the world? How do you what are your truths? And maybe this is a time for you to get very philosophical. Maybe this is a time for you to focus on your education. With Venus joining the Sun on March 21st, it's going to go into Aries, and Venus being your career planet, maybe you need to get necessary education or training for your professional life. So for example, if you are doing some radical shifts in your career, then how do you then get the necessary training, the necessary education in order to facilitate these changes? In normal times, this would be your season to travel abroad, to go on long distance journeys. Maybe you're having to do that virtually or in other ways. Maybe you're having to search the world from the comfort of your own home. Going into the end of the month, we have a Libra full moon. For you, Leo, Libra is your sign of ideas and information, writing, communication, and also travel. So there's this sort of dynamic that's highlighted with travel and education as you go into the end of the month and into even April. As well, there might be some tension happening with that full moon on March 28th. It's sort of highlighting some sort of back and forth with ideology. What do you believe in? What is your truth? Are you sort of standing behind some sort of faith or some sort of conviction, but maybe the reality is that you need to see things from a different perspective, because we can all get stuck in sort of, our blinders when it comes to what we believe in. But this full moon is also with Venus, we would say in astrology, conjunct Chiron. This might touch on a pain point for you, and then for everybody as well. But for you, it might be either an ideological pain point or a pain point that's around faith, truth, and meaning. Maybe this is the time for you to really make sure that whatever you're putting the full weight of yourself behind is actually real, it's actually true. Or maybe this is a time for you to stand up for what you really believe in, what your faith is, and what your truth is, of course. So it is also important to mention, just to kind of backtrack for a second, the new moon that is 2 weeks before this full moon on the 28th, it will activate the solar eclipse that we had on December 17th. Now, the eclipses that we had at the end of November going into December, the last eclipse season, for you it's very much around education and publishing and communication, ideas and information. So this new moon that we have, it might be bringing out not education's ideas, but more about like you. Sorry, I'm getting my things mixed up. These eclipses are actually about you, what you, how you express who you are, your talents, your gifts, your abilities, the greater whole, meaning the communities that you're a part of, and how do you navigate the back and forth between maintaining yourself, but also sort of aligning yourself with something greater in the world. So this new moon that's on the middle of the month, on the 13th of March, it crosses the solar eclipse back from December. And in a way, it presages the eclipses we're going to have in May, June. So you might see some twists and some turns, maybe because you're trying to really get clear about who you are and what your gifts and talents and abilities are, you're going to have to get vulnerable in some way. And that's what that new moon means on the 13th. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, we have that full moon that I was talking about in Libra, which is your sign of ideas and information. So still, it's bringing in the story about how you speak, how you communicate, how you write, how you listen, how you learn, how you travel or not. But that is sort of it in a nutshell for you this month. Leo, it's important for you to understand that you, and I've said this in previous horoscopes, you plus a few other signs, you're getting a lot of pressure this year to sort of resolve some tension between a new life that's been opening up for you the past 2 years versus some of the older stuff that you're still either stuck in or still connected to that maybe isn't fully in alignment with this new part of your life. We had some big deal astrology back in February that sort of is going to carry through into this month, but We're going to revisit it again in June and revisit it again at different parts this year. So you might see a few twists and turns, especially around relationships, especially around health and how you take care of your body. So do keep that in mind. But that said, you're in a greater period of time where it is about reorienting a lot of things in your life. So there you go, Leo. That is your look at the astrology of March of 2021. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman. You can follow me at empoweringastrology.com, book consultation. You can also follow me on Instagram and IGTV. I am Empowering Astro. I'm also on Facebook, Empowering Astrology, Twitter, YouTube. So hope to see you all again next month. Until then, be well.